Today, in the kooky corner of YouTube, we are going to be needle felting on paper. So stick around if you want to find out how I do this. Hello and welcome back to a kooky corner of YouTube. Welcome if it's your first time here. I do hope you're going to enjoy it. Have a little look around at the back catalogue of videos. There are a lot to look at. Anyway, today I am in my mad scientist mode. Sometimes skip into this one just because I want to see what if. And so my what if this week is, what if you could needle felt on paper and then watercolour paint it? So that's exactly what I've done. Now, I will preface this a little by saying that I did try this back in Easter. You can see by this little bunny with his Easter egg. So I figured that it does actually work. It's something that you wouldn't want to be handling, but it is a piece of artwork. So, you know, you could frame it, which is probably what I would suggest in something like a shadow box of some kind. You could put it as a gift on a greetings card. It would still work. I mean, this has been hanging around since April. So it's, you know, it's absolutely fine. I've handled it a fair bit because I've been testing out, you see. I've been doing a little bit of experimentation. So what are we going to need in order for this to work? I'll just show you this one that I've done as well. And this guy has got some watercolour on as well, and also some little gold acrylics painted stars. And he's got some stitching into his jumper. So it's needle felting and embroidery into paper. Now, the paper that you use for this is kind of all important. So let me grab the paper samples and I'll show you exactly what I've been using. So the paper I have used for this, I have picked specifically because of the properties of the paper. So it is 100% cotton rag. So it is made from cotton rag. It's Cardi handmade cotton rag paper. And because of that, it's got a nice strength to it, but you can get this in a variety of weights, by the way. And the one I recommend is 150 GSM. You don't want anything thicker than that. You don't really want anything thinner than that, although I don't think it comes much thinner than 150. I think that's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's probably the thinnest kind of Cardi paper that you can buy. I have some here that are A6. I bought some more which are A5 because I want to do some bigger pieces as well, but I'm working on the A6 one specifically just in my experimentational phase. So in my brain, I wanted to combine watercolour and needle felting. Now you can do that on fabric, you know, that's a doable. What I wanted specifically was to do it on paper because I'm awkward like that and I want to try out things and see if they work. My quick questions about needle felting on paper were that no, it's not going to work. But that, as I say, depends on the paper. And this paper, this specific paper, is the one that I am using and has worked for me. How do I know that it's worked? Well, if I turn over my needle felting, you can see the embroidery as well there. You can see that the fibres of the needle felt have transferred through. Okay, so the fibres have transferred through. That means it has felted. And obviously I could pull it all out, but you could do that with any kind of needle felting, couldn't you? But it has transferred through and therefore is stable enough to work on top of. So this was my first experimentation. This is my bunny. Now you can see, if you look closely, tiny little holes there. This is a little caveat again. Not only do you have to be specific about the paper you're using, but when you are needle felting into it, you have to be very sure that's where you want the holes to be. I don't mind these too much. That's fine. That's going to be lost within some kind of decoration on the background, perhaps. I don't know. For this one, I'm just going to leave him as he is because he's a little bunny holding an Easter egg. And he was literally my first piece. So I'm going to keep him as a memento of what I started with, because this is all what experimentation is about. You never find out new things unless you try them. And I do like to combine different things that I do. Anyway, so that worked. And then my brain said, okay, now the question is, do I watercolour it first or do I watercolour it afterwards? My first thought, obviously, was to do the watercolouring afterwards. So with my bear here that I have done, he has been needle felted first. That's been the first thing that I've done. And then I retrospectively watercoloured in the background, which has worked fairly well. You just have to be aware of all the fibres because you're working with a fluffy fibre, and the fluffy fibre is going to overhang on some of your watercolour. I don't mind that. That's absolutely fine. I can cope with that. Now, the thing I haven't tried, which I probably will try now, is to do the watercolour background first and let it dry and then see if it is still stable enough to needle felt into. So you catch me at that phase. So we've done the needle felting into it. We've done needle felting, then watercolour, and now we're going to try watercolour and needle felting. So I've got some watercolour handily to one side. I'm going to get my little mat here, and I think I'll do another bear just because I know that I can do that. It's kind of like a testing phase. Cardi paper usually comes with these deckled edges, which I love. I think that sat on a mounting board in a frame would look absolutely fine, so I'm going to go with that. On this one, I left a little edge around it. I'm going to probably do the same again just because, I don't know, I quite like that little white edge going around it. So I'm going to get out my watercolours. Where is my brush? Okay, so because I don't have to be so careful, because I was being very careful to go around my bear when I was painting, I can go to town here a little bit. So I'm just going to start adding in some blues, remembering to leave that little bit of white at the top. I love paper, the rag paper for watercolouring on. I think it's fabulous. It takes it really nicely. It does buckle slightly, but it will flatten itself down again because this is 100% cotton. I'm going to add some purple in there. So really simply just laying down some watercolour. I could have done it with a bigger brush, to be honest. But hey, we are where we are. So I'm just working with this, adding in some lovely night sky purples and blues, and I will see when it dries if it needs maybe another going over, but I'll probably be quite happy with a lighter watercolour background. I'm going to add some of this pink in here, see what that does. Nothing at all. That's not the best pink, to be fair. This one is rather lovely. It's like a purpley pink. I'm just going to splodge some of that on. Splodge is a technical term, by the way. We're all very technical here at Kooky Towers. Do I want to add some of this light blue in? Ooh, let's do it. Let's just go crazy. And I don't want to water it down too much. Now, this is going to have a little bit of drying time. Oh, some of that indigo. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. So I'm going to have to let this dry properly. Luckily, we've got a rather nice day today, so my drying time should be shortened because of the warmth in the studio. Just going to add some more in there. Take it up a little bit. I like how the edges kind of spread out of it as well. That is something that pleases me. So I'm going to go like that. Do I want some more splodgies in it? Maybe. Let's put some in, just for the heck. Why not? Why not? So I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to see if the needle felting is affected by the fact that it's had watercolour. Let me just lift that. I don't want that to settle. Let's spread it out a bit. Because as you can see, it's buckling upwards. When that dries, that will flatten down. So once it's dry, we're going to try the experiment of needle felting into it. So let's wait a while and see what we get. So here it is, all dry and ready to try the experimentation on. Just pop this out of the way, hoping not to cause an avalanche. I have got my needle felting mat, but first of all I want to give myself some kind of a guideline to draw against. I should have a pencil in here. Yeah, I'm going to use this by Colour One because it is pretty good for just giving myself some kind of guideline. Okay, so we've got our bear's head. It's coming down here. It's going to cover a lot of this galaxy bit that I put in, but that is the challenge. Unless I'd actually drawn it first, we wouldn't be able to figure out where it was going to go. So I've got some ears. I've got a muzzle coming down here. It's going to be covered over, so it doesn't really matter too much. Somewhere where the eyes will go. Little jumper neck and some shoulders. I'm just going to take them down to there for now. So that's there. Maybe come out a little more there, perhaps. That's all going to be covered up. Okay, so you can see vaguely I've got a little bear sketch going on there. I've just got to decide what colours my bear is going to be. So I want to do something a little different this time. I think I'm going to go for this colour, and one of my favourite colours at the moment is this corally orange. I'm going to go with that, and I'll pick another one for his jumper in a minute, but this is just going to be the face. So the base face is going to be this, like a buttery yellow colour. This is a merino tops. You can use whichever tops you've got. And I've got a very, very fine needle felting needle. The reason I want it to be fine is because it's going through paper, so I want to be fairly careful about that. Actually, I'm going to do the middle bit first. This is how I did it last time. So this is going to be the muzzle colour, which is this coral. Kind of get it in the shape. In fact, if you can, to save stabbing into the paper too much, is just kind of get it into the vague shape that you want it to be in to start off with, just to kind of get some shape going on, if you get my meaning, because we're trying to minimize the amount of stabs we have to do to get this in. Lift that up. Okay, I'm just vaguely getting a shape going on for the muzzle here. It needs to be a bit thinner than that. Just a little bit. I did do it without doing this previously, but just thinking aloud and continuing experimentally, I thought that might be a really good idea. This might be a bit big. Let's have a little look. Yeah, it's still going to be quite large, but if I tuck it in, and kind of work it as I go. So you have to be careful where you go, not on this bit particularly, but when you get to doing the outside bit, you need to be a little bit careful. So I'm just looking at where the edges are, and I'm trying to be a little more careful than I usually would be with my needle felting, because it's paper we're going through. And remember to keep lifting it. If you don't lift it, it will felt into the base that you're felting on top of this one, and then you can run the risk of ripping your paper, which you don't want to do. So keeping going. I just keep looking for where that edge is, making sure that I'm not stabbing into my fingers. And with your felting needle, if you've not done needle felting before, it's an up and down movement. You don't want to be going at an angle and flicking it around. Otherwise, again, you run the risk of breaking the needle, which is something you don't really want to do because, well, they cost a fair bit, don't they? Not really in the scale of things, but again, it's something you don't want to do. Number one thing, you could lose the needle. If you were doing a different 3D piece, you could lose the needle in a piece, which is the nightmare situation. With this, not so much of a risk because it's paper. So you're not really going to lose anything inside that's too... You can see how slowly I'm going around those edges. And it will be felting into itself as well. You don't need to go deeply, so don't push your needle in all the way. You only need to push it to where those barbs are. Where, if you look at the barbs on it, I don't know if you can see them, the tip of that bit there, the end there, and that's as far as it ever needs to go into anything, really. You don't need to go all the way up here. It's crazy talk. But especially with the paper, you don't want to be going in too far. A lot of my stabs here are just in the wool itself rather than in the paper, because I'm trying to minimise, as I say, the amount of stabbing that I do into the paper. You can see how this comes up really quickly though, and you'd be pleased to know it seems to be working. So you can either retrospectively watercolour your piece, or you can watercolour it, leave it to dry, and then needle felt over the top of it, which is useful to know because we like to have as many little tricks in our arsenal as we can. Our art arsenal, should I say. This is coming along quite nicely. Trying to keep folding it in a little bit so that it keeps within the muzzle lines. This cardi paper is superb for this kind of thing. I haven't tried another one, but I'm not sure I'd recommend it unless it was kind of a thin cotton rag watercolour paper, which I don't have. I only have thick ones, and I haven't tried that yet, so that might be next in my experimental line of work. Just to get that going. So let's lift it up. You see what I mean? It kind of sticks into the base. You have to be really careful with it. But we can see that it's felting because the fibres have migrated through to the other side. So that is all good news. So I'm going to continue with this I'm going to do the inner bits of his ears, then I'm going to do his face in that lovely buttery yellow, then I'll think of a colour to do for his jumper. I'm going to do this now, and it will probably be speeded up for you, but I'm going to start off a little bit without it speeded, just to show you how it's going to go. I've got a little bit of this going on at the minute. Getting a whole bunch of it onto the paper is kind of an idea. Keep your fingers out of the way. Be mindful of your lines. Try not to go out of the lines for this, because that bit will show on your paper. It doesn't really matter too much. As I showed you on this one, you can see, I don't know if you can see, if I hold it like that, you can see the little holes that are accidental there. They still show through, but when you hold it like that, you wouldn't know. So it's only if you're up for, it's going to be up for lots of scrutiny that you need to worry. And even then, don't worry. There's always a fix. There's always a fix to be had. You could say it's intentional. You wanted it to be extra stars in the sky. Okay. I am going to continue with this, filling in the whole of that underneath his little chin there, all the way around in his ears, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. So I'll be back in a moment. So here is the piece after I have needle felted the head. We've got the muzzle, we've got the ears, which match the muzzle, and a nice gingery jumper because I kind of fancied that colour. It's kind of like a beautiful ginger colour. So the next thing I did was needle felt a nose. So it's a tiny little bit of black wool tops that was just needle felted in there. In fact, this needs a tiny bit more just to go in like so. Next, the eyes. Now, the eyes could be needle felted, but I, in my time-honoured fashion, have used brads. So I've got these tiny, I think they're 4mm brads, black brads, used for paper craft. I've marked kind of where I want the eyes to be. I think it was there. So test them first. If they look okay, you can go to the back and bend the brads back like so. That's one. Second one's there. The paper does sometimes, especially where I've pushed the brads through, does start to come away, but the felt itself will support it. So that's a little bit where the brad was pushed through. There we are. So we have our bear. Now the next thing is I've got some cotton embroidery. It's thinner than pearl cotton. It is a 1-strand cotton in a similar way, but I'll find the end of it. It is nice fine cotton. You can do this with embroidery thread. It's just that I've got this and it's working supremely well, so I'm using it. Now, needles. There we go. There's my needle. I'm just going to thread it up on camera. Ooh. Taking a risk. And I'm going to embroider his nose and some details on his jumper. So we go from the top of the nose, middle of the nose there. Bringing my needle up, bringing it down to about there-ish, depending on how you like your muzzles to look. That's basically it. I go down there And I'm going to go back up to the middle this time. Sometimes I do it as like a fly stitch, but I'm just going to continue, and I put a little upturn on his mouth, just to this side here. I'll take it through, push it back in, just to give him a bit of a smile instead of a frown. You can make him frowny if you want to. My little bear is happy. Okay. So upturn on that little bit there. That's a slight upturn on that one. That's fine. So he's got his mouth now as well. Pull it a bit tighter. There we go. Now I want to add in some detail on the jumper. So it's like the neck of the jumper, just to give it a little bit of jumpery detail. Technical term. Go in there, coming out there, down to there. You can also go along that bit if you wanted to, or you could give him a coat by stitching down here, adding some buttons in. You can do it however you like it. I'm into bears in jumpers at the minute. I do like animals in jumpers. I don't know what that says about me. Cozy bears, perhaps, maybe. So you can go into the embroidery part of this as much as you like. You're not going to cause it any problem, because we know that the cardi paper can definitely take embroidery, because I've shown you a video before doing embroidery of flowers on it. And then I'm going to go there just to give an impression of where his jumper arms are, and his actual arms presumably. I'm just going to backstitch down here. Whoops. So pull that through. I'm doing this very quickly. You could take a bit more time over it, for sure. Because now I know this works, I'm going to have a whale of a time making things with this. I've got a whole idea in my head. See, when you play around and you experiment and just ask the question, what if? You never know what's going to come up, really. No, I'm not going to bother. I was going to cut it off and then reattach, but this is going to be mounted on something, so I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to go straight across the back. It's, as long as I don't pull it too tightly, we're all good. And I'm just considering what decoration I might add into the jumper, if any. Maybe it's just a plain jumper. It's quite a nice looking jumper, so I might just leave that one as is. There we go. So we've got our bear. He's all needle felted on. It's all gone through. Look at my stretched over stitches, but that's me rushing. If I was feeling very relaxed and time wasn't an issue, I would probably take the time just to cut them off and reattach. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter, and who's got that amount of time? Right, so the other thing I added into mine is now I've got the watercolour down, I know I can add in some of this acrylic, which I'm going to do now, because I want him to have some stars. You know I like my stars like this one here. You need a tiny amount. This is golden. This is golden iridescent fine gold deep. I love this paint. It is the bee's knees for gold acrylic. So I'm just going to take you down a little further and painting some stars. You could do this with an acrylic marker if you wanted to, but I love this paint. I know that this goes over watercolour really well, and it leaves a beautiful sheen or golden shine, and it covers so well. It really does. So I'm going to paint these in like so. And give him some stars to look at. So I'm going to do all these other ones. I'll be back with you. So here they are, the two stargazing bears. His eyes are a little close together, but that's his personality. Bears get their own personality. It doesn't matter if you make them, stitch them, whatever, they all develop their own personality. Needle felted bears are no different. Anyway, so for that little experiment, we've proved we can watercolour the paper beforehand. We can actually watercolour the paper and then needle felt into it. Or you could do the retrospective version where you needle felt it and add the paint afterwards. Totally your choice. I do like this effect though. It looks more natural. You can see kind of faint line there. It doesn't bother me so much, but you can see the faint line. So it depends whether that's bothering you or not. I have got so many ideas now. I've got all excited because I've a list of all the things that I'd like to have a go at using the needle felting technique into the cardie paper and seeing what else I can do. Anyway, that's it for today. Go and have some fun. Go and play, children. Go and play. See what you can come up with. Having fun with all your different supplies. If you find things you love, it's lovely when you can combine them. It really is. Anyway, that's enough from me for today. I will be back here very soon with something else. Bye for now.